Well, hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, or evening, depending on where we are joining us from today. Welcome back to a new episode of Sales Insights. This one is very special because it's for in honor of the Women's International Day. Today, we're going to discuss back to the basis, revitalizing pharma marketing with core principles. This is, as I said before, a new episode of Sales Insight, the talk show brought to you by Platforms with the aim to connect professionals from all over the world. In an era where billions are invested into omnichannel strategies, data, and AI, the essential elements of pharmaceutical marketing often take a backseat. In order of International Women's Day, we're bringing together an industry experts to discuss how to revitalize this marketing with core principles. This webinar is all about amplifying women's voice in pharma, sharing our insights, challenges, and strategies. So let's explore together how a focus on core principles can rejuvenate our marketing efforts and lead us to a greater success in the pharmaceutical industry. So, without any further delay, and after this long introduction, let me introduce our experts, Laura Kennedy and Claudia Adreani from BellySlide. Hello, guys. How are you today?
Hi, Juliana. Very good. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being part of our event and for taking the time to be here. We're very, very glad to have you in this new show, in this new episode. Do you guys want to introduce yourself? Laura, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Kennedy, and I'm Associate Director with BellySlide.
And hi, I'm Claudia Adreani, and I'm Managing Director of BellySlide, and I'm pleased to be with you this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, guys, if you haven't been following Laura and Claudia, now is the time to follow them. If you haven't been following BellySlide, now is also the time to go there and like, subscribe, and whatever the button you want to do. So, Claudia, I know you have some insights to share with our audience. So, do you want to start from there?
I do.
Great.
Thank you so much. If you can just bring the slides,
Sure.
please.
There you go.
Hello, everyone. Again, I cannot tell you how excited Laura and I are to spend the next hour with you. And I have to say, very quickly, this is not a sales pitch, I promise you. But we did want to take the opportunity to spend a few minutes up front because we thought it was important to put our philosophy out there. We in BellySlide, we have been on a mission to raise this topic of marketing fundamentals and to bring this back into the agenda and to help companies build these capabilities that are so needed. And before I even go into content, I wanted to share with you a little anecdote. I am sure all of you that have got children in the call have at some point in your lives got the question of your little ones asking, what do you do for a job? And that's what I got a few years ago when my little ones, who are not little anymore, came and asked me, Mommy, what do you do for work? And I said, darling, I was very proud to explain. I was working in AstraZeneca at the time, that I work in a company that they develop medicines, to cure people from diseases. And then I was particularly focusing on helping teams make people aware that those medicines exist so that, they could get to the patients. And she said, what drug, Mommy? And I said, well, this is a drug that works for the heart. So when people are sick and they have some heart problem, they maybe have a heart attack. Have you heard of heart attacks? And they can take this medicine and they can either get better or they can prevent further problems down the line. To my surprise, she comes back a few weeks later, and this is a true story, by the way, and says, Mommy, my friend Lola's grandma died and it was your fault. And I say, how come? And she said, well, because she had a heart attack. You did not give the medicine and she died. I had to explain, of course, to my 5, 6, I can't remember how old she was at that time, that, of course, it's not that straightforward, darling. It's not like that. The doctor ultimately is the one making the decision and so on and so forth. And maybe your friend's grandma had something else. But the truth of the matter is, though, that the medicines we work on can indeed save lives. the work we do is very important, and Laura and I are absolutely convinced of this, but also of the fact that the reality is that the success of those drugs depends on a great extent on how good our marketing is. Yeah. So thing number one to say. Thing number two to say is for that marketing to actually work, and Juliana was talking about how much we have been spending in this industry in execution and in omnichannel, and started with digital, then omnichannel, now it's AI and data and analytics and all of that. And by the way, we are definitely not saying that we need to stop doing that. But what we are saying is that that will not work if we don't invest as well in the upfront elements that will multiply the effect of the execution. Because if we don't spend the time and the effort to do proper thinking, strategic decisions, understanding customers, understanding the market, and so on, we will not succeed. And this is why we develop our framework. I know that you had a bit of a glance to the framework through the video that we shared with you with the tips. But our framework is basically just a way to organize the key best practice that we have observed through the years, through a structure that allows us to cover every single area. But it's ultimately to help us organize the ideas and the best practice, to raise those capabilities and allow that innovation to get to patients and to have the impact that it was intended to have. I'm not going to deal in detail. We're going to have lots of questions. I know some of you actually asked questions specifically on the framework, but it's just to tell you what it is. It's just a structure that we developed. And if anything, and this is my last message, if anything we want you to take away is this idea that great omnichannel is great, but it's not enough. What we need is actually great marketing, all of it, the whole of marketing, full stop. And why we need that? Because there's a lot at stake, right? One, for our companies. Our companies are not going to take these amazing innovative medicines that we spend years and billions developing to the patients that can benefit from them. And we won't get the reward, the financial reward that we need to keep investing. Our teams probably will continue to be frustrated when the amount of effort that we put in does not work as well as we would like to. It is important that we do this for our customers who will not engage with relevant content, activities, initiatives from pharma. But most importantly, we need because ultimately they are the ones that are missing out on the medicines. They are the ones we are all here for. I know that all of you on the call most likely are like Laura and I in this industry because of the good that we do for society, for the patients, for the families. So we owe it to them. And this is why we're here. This is our mission. And with that, we thank you for listening to me for these few minutes. And we really look forward to the conversation. Connect with us if you want or can. And with this, Juliana, we're ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And guys, as Claudia said, sorry, they have created, or they have been part of the 5 insights. So if you haven't checked it out, they really go and give the great. So, here I come. Sorry. So they're giving the best tips into the marketing strategy. So please check it out. And without any further delay, I think we should definitely start this conversation. We have some questions from our audience. They have been done beforehand. So, but if you have questions, you're more than welcome to join and to ask them away. So I think I will bring the first question that I have is, what is the most challenging part of implementing the bridge framework in real world scenarios? Who wants to tackle that? Laura,
Yeah,
do you want to
sure.
start?
So probably the biggest challenge is to sort of get a baseline of where you are so that you can understand where the gaps are. And that's challenging because it can be very difficult to self-assess. You may have a sense of where the gaps are, but I think, it's important to get a very good assessment upfront of where you are by asking the right questions. And, that's one of the key reasons we developed the bridge framework, was to be able to articulate what those questions are, because marketing fundamentals and strategic thinking, often there's many different interpretations of what that actually means. So again, one of the key purposes of the bridge framework was to say, well, here are all the core fundamentals, irrespective of what specific frameworks, company frameworks you might use. These are the laws or principles, if you like, that always apply. It's always the same. The process for marketing is always the same. And so there's a lot of guidance there if you want to review the bridge framework in terms of understanding where it is you may be strong and where it is you may have room for improvement. So beyond that, then it's about starting with the gap that's biggest, probably. I would probably argue that B and or are very important, which is the market mapping and then the deep customer insight. But the reality is, for a team that is maybe on a journey, shall we say, of implementing all the core elements of Bridge, the first time you do that, it won't be to the nth degree of expertise, but everybody has to start somewhere. So at least if you can take on board a few of the key fundamentals under each of the core components along the process of marketing, then that's a great start. So it's not about being perfect on the first run. This type of expertise is very what we call tacit or empirical. You've got to do it to learn it. So you've got to apply it in real life in order to really understand and embrace the learning. So yeah, hopefully I've answered that well enough. I don't know, Claudia, do you have anything to add?
I do have just two underpinning points, if you liked, because I obviously agree with everything that Laura said, but I would add that applying this principle should be a team effort, right? And a cross-functional effort. So in order to do that, the self-assessment and the awareness and the self-awareness of the gaps need to come at all levels in the organization. And oftentimes, and this can be a challenge as well, if leadership is not on board, if leadership is actually not acknowledging and addressing and understanding that there are gaps to solve in the capabilities of the team, and the team gets the support they need to build the capabilities, but also work towards the same goal in achieving these excellent levels in all of these key areas, can also be a challenge, even if one single marketeer, let's say, does his best effort to tackle this, because the marketing and the planning effort is a cross-functional one. So you need the entire organization to be behind this.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, I have more questions here, but I will, do you want to go a little bit short on the Bridge framework, so that way we can open a little bit, because we're talking about it and maybe some of the guys have not watched the video, although
Absolutely.
You should have beforehand, but it's okay. We will let it pass. But I think if we give a little bit of insights into what is the Bridge and the importance of implementing this, it will also open the door, we'll say, for more questions or more comments regarding this. So I don't know if you guys are up to it.
Sure.
100%. So Laura, if you want, I can start. We can ping pong as well, so that we make it a bit more interesting. But anyways, so the Bridge framework, again, is based on all of the different areas. So the B is for base, and the base is basically the understanding of the market. And without going into detail into every single aspect that you need to understand, one of the critical success factors are actually to be pragmatic about it. I know that there's one of the questions in the chat about what about small companies. One of the things that we're preaching is, and this is one of the gaps that we see, is that we go so broad and so wide, and we try to understand everything that we lose the wood for the trees, right? We don't necessarily make to focus on and where it's actually kind of nice to know, but not necessarily is essential. But as part of that understanding is understanding as well where the spaces are, be very clear, and where the potential opportunities are, be very clear, for example, on what segments exist in the market. Segmentation is a big topic. Again, guys, we're going very, very high level, but anyways, it's being able to map the opportunities in a very pragmatic way. So that's a B for base. Laura, you can talk to my favorite one.
Sure. So yeah, so once you've I suppose done the exercise described by Claudia under B, you've mapped what, usually it's some form of customer journey. And in that, you've prioritized the points in the customer journey where you want to focus. So the next thing, and we gave this a specific letter all on its own because we thought it was so important, is that we go deep on customer insights. Because at any moment that matters, or pain point, or whatever we want to call it, there's a stakeholder doing a behavior for some reason. But often we're not going deep enough in understanding why it is that person, that individual is behaving the way they are. Often, one of the things we can tend to do in pharma is talk about knowledge or education. So if our sales aren't going the way we want them to go, we'll say, oh, we need to do more education. We need to look at improving knowledge. But there are so many more levers other than knowledge that we really need to understand. And that's, one of the core principles of deep customer insight. So first and foremost, when we think about anyone's behavior, it's not just what they know to do, but it's what they feel capable of doing, what they're motivated to do, what their environment allows them to do. So at the very least, we need to explore all of those constructs. And then when we go deeper, we need to understand, at an emotional and motivational and heuristic level, what influences them. And often then the types of frameworks we're looking at then is not just considering the core underlying constructs, but also things like jobs to be done. What are doctors hiring these treatments to do? And that's about looking at the stakeholder and their broader context and saying, okay, it's not just about lowering the blood pressure. It's also about something else. It might be about treating more patients effectively, or it might be about, doing what I trained to be a doctor for, which is to be a good doctor, but also to be able to see all of these patients in X amount of time. So there's a lot more going on than just the functional job that a treatment is doing. So that would be, one of the examples of how we would look broader at what stakeholders are hiring a treatment to do. And that's a very important context when it comes to understanding the related social and emotional jobs. So that's what we refer to when we talk about deep customer insight. And key insights then are kind of those aha moments, those intuitive, humanistic realization moments where you intuitively understand, or it clicks, what is it that is making these stakeholders do what they do. And that doesn't come from one data point. That comes from iterative combination of data points and joint understanding and discussion and pressure testing, and it comes over time. But they're the things that can really open up opportunities for brands, as Claudia will explain in the under I.
Yeah. So I is for identify the opportunities. So this is strategic choices. The principle is very simple. If we try to do it all, we do very little well done. So strategy takes courage, and it's about prioritizing where the most value is for us, but also for the customer, and everything else that we understood. How are we going to use that information, including the insight way, to evaluate practically, but rationally as well, where the biggest opportunities are, where we should go for, and then go for it, and have the courage to deprioritize what we're not going to go for as well. And that includes obviously targeting within segmentation. We're very good at doing segmentation and then going after every single segment. And that's not kind of why we normally do segmentation, but it's to understand what is the best segment that we should. But in short, because I know that we have lots of questions for, identify where to
focus. So D then is.
I have to say the attendees are really responding. This is for you guys, and I'm so glad that we are covering this, because I'm seeing that everyone is very happy that we're covering the breach. You didn't do your homework. No, I'm kidding. No. We covered the breach framework. So thank you, and we can move forward from this. But I'm glad you guys like it, and if you have questions, please write them on the chat, and we will bring them here. So Laura and Claudia can tackle that. So Laura, I'm sorry for interrupting, but you can go.
Thank you. No, it's good for us too. We could talk about this all day long, so we're very happy. Although I think Claudia was telling me to be briefer. So D is for develop. So this is really the big idea. So once we've made our strategic choices under I, and before we move into G, which is guide, connect, connected experience, we need to think about what the big idea is. And the big idea is a reflection of the strategic choices we've made and how we have positioned the brand. It is what we're going to say about the brand. It represents the essence and the soul of the brand that we've developed when we're developing the brand position, which reflects those key insights, those customer insights that we've uncovered under OR. So, an example of a big idea for Nike would be just do it. So, when Nike uncovered customer insights, what they discovered was there was this universal human driver, which was aspiration to do more and to do better and to reach your full human potential. And so when they developed the big idea for that, it was the just do it idea, which they've got so much value out of, right? They've done the other one of the core fundamentals, which is consistency of delivery of that brand idea. Yeah. So that's an example of what the big idea does. It brings the brand positioning and all of that customer insight to life in a very overarching, big, all-encompassing idea that then will bring your tactics and your content to life in the next two stages.
Mm-hmm. G is for guide, connected experiences. And we purposely chose the word guide because we're guiding the customer. We're not pushing them. By the way, we love to push in pharma. We're not pushing them. We're guiding them. We're giving them useful content that connects to what they're looking for, with the problem that they have, with the challenge that they have, and we're guiding them something that is an experience that will wow them. Assuming that, by the way, we did the D step that Laura talked about. Well done. We have a wow sort of idea, and then we execute it in a way that we guide the customer through. This is the piece where, by the way, we're very conscious that this is where the industry has evolved more on, and everyone has become more of an expert. The bit that perhaps we want to bring very, very clearly within the G as a side note is that it's not just about connecting channels for the sake of it. We need to be very, very clear in what is that behavior, what is that attitude and that thinking and the motivations for the behavior, which will also have a point of start and a point of end. And how are we going to use that interconnected story that we're going to tell? Because we need to tell one story through all of the channels, regardless of the function and the channels, so that the customer actually, we guide them in this journey from A to B. So that is what G is about. The orchestration is an orchestra, not fireworks, we used to say as well, right? It's the orchestra that is going to tell our story to the customers, which is not only our story, but it's a story that connects with what they care about, with the insight, with everything that we have discussed so far. And with that, I'll leave you with Laura and the last, E of our bridge framework.
Yeah, so E is for evaluate. And the key thing here is if we've done all the other components well, E, there's already a story there. It already makes sense. It's very intuitive to understand. But E is really tracking how the needle is moving in the environment based on the story and the strategy and the positioning that we're implementing under B, R, I, D, and G. Most importantly is that the KPIs are linked to a behavior shift or an element of that behavior shift. So one of the things we can see is sometimes there is maybe the existence of metrics which are click-through rates or metrics that aren't necessarily linked to a specific behavioral shift. Everything we do in marketing is about moving behavior, influencing behavior, be that the whether we're measuring the behavior directly itself or those constructs that underlie behavior. Actually, they're the ones that we influence in real terms. So we need to be measuring against those to understand how well we're doing. And not only is that from a performance perspective, but also how well is our campaign working and what adjustments do we need to make? So here we talk about closed loop learning, where the KPIs that we're measuring under E are linking back to I, the strategy. And again, as a team, and when we've adopted a thinking mindset of curiosity and a culture mindset of curiosity, we're using those KPIs to inform, to read, to interpret as a team and understand, what's working in our strategy or what's not working, what might need tweaking. So again, it's a continuous stream of learning, organizational learning, at brand level learning, etc. all of which contributes to iterative performance and iterative improvements of the plan.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for
just one thing that I wanted to say, Juliana, on the E, because
yeah, please.
it's something that I have seen, and I did mention at the beginning the leadership buy-in and the importance of getting the entire organization behind this. And data and analytics has been one of the areas where Pharma has, rightly so, invested quite a lot of money in the last few years. The E doesn't not only talk to the team level, it speaks to the actual rationale behind the KPIs that you should have in there, which means the organization is to be behind also this philosophy of measuring. And what happens is, or what is not happening, is that you, for example, have dashboards at a global level that are contributing to this. If you ask me, the fact that we still have got dashboards that are structured by functions that are there kind of to report and check on internal activities or internal metrics or internal incentives and things that are not necessarily telling the story of the brand and the customer, is a reflection that everyone should have, and not just the teams working on that. Because with all the goodwill in the world, the brand team can define the right KPIs, and then they don't really have a mirror, a dashboard set up that would allow them to actually see what is the collective story that our numbers are telling us as cross-functional team that we can learn from, rather than use it to, sorry for my honesty, but blame each other because, well, my numbers look great and yours look not so great. So everyone needs to buy into what takes to actually do this better, and it requires more than just a local brand team sometimes to fix some of the gaps that we have seen.
And probably just one other point on that, Claudia, as well, is it can be counterproductive if you have the wrong KPIs in place. If the KPI, if the incentives and the KPIs are set up to incentivize the team to do more tactics and send more content and push more content to the doctor, but the doctor is not having a good experience because they're getting content maybe repetition or not relevant or not timed well, then that's actually damaging the customer experience. So it's really important that when we're setting up these KPIs, we're thinking about the customer experience, the experience in front of the customer, and really prioritizing that over any internal metrics around, who does best in terms of sending things out.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we forget that at the end of the day, we are all bombarding, well, not bombarding necessarily, but we're all sending messages to one person or one sort of, let's say one person for the sake of conversation, but we're sending all this information to one person, and then maybe he has so much information from so many channels that we are not sending the right, or even in the right channel as well, because you have the different it's generational types of learning information. And I think this is one of the best elements that we need to have in mind in order to prepare a campaign or something like that, that not everyone watches, learns, and buy the same way. I think with Claudia, I think we discussed this I would say ages ago, but no, at the beginning of last year, I think that the importance of understanding, and this was more into global to local focus, that we said the importance of understanding how the local market works, even though, for example, for everyone that is watching, I'm from Argentina and Claudia is from Venezuela, and we are from Latin America, but at the same time, culturally, I will say, we're different. Our countries consume things in a very different way. So I like this of the KPIs and having the right KPIs in mind. I think that's something that sometimes we forget at the end of the day. I have more questions. I have a lot of questions. But I think I have one here that it has been sent by someone from our audience on private. I don't know why, guys. If you write it on the comments, then everyone can read it out. But anyway, the question is, what are the common pitfalls company face when trying to focus on key opportunities, and how can they avoid spreading their resources too thin.
Yeah.
I don't
Claudia, go
know.
ahead.
Well,
Should
I
I
think,
go?
yeah, I can do that. The first thing that I would say is, one is actually not focusing enough. It's the first pitfall. Like I said, just because we do segmentation doesn't mean that is an opportunity to just have a different plan for all 5, 6, whatever number of segments that we identified, right? Normally, and this happens more obviously in other industries, we segment to understand which segment of the market is the one that is more pertinent for our brand. The second thing that I would say is, how do we go about prioritizing those segments? Also, sometimes we see that there is either not a very structured way to go through that. So we might take only one parameter and say, oh, this is bigger potential, so I'm going to go for it. Well, hang on. Being bigger potential doesn't mean you have a higher possibility of success. It doesn't mean that you can be as relevant to that segment. It might be that there is a bigger segment, but because of your product, because of your position in the market, you might be better placed to serve another segment for whatever reason. But that's another pitfall. And I would say that perhaps not only doing those, you might do the right analysis, but still make the wrong decision. So, for example, you might want to, I don't know, I've seen this as well. You go and do segmentation on the basis of, I don't know, I want to do just see what is the highest potential. And then I also want to see some of the behaviors, but then you maybe choose even the wrong segment within the behaviors. And a classical one is, I want to go for the people that actually already are prescribing my drug because I'm going to be expanding them into more. And maybe that is not enough of an opportunity for what you're trying to achieve. And I'm going very basic on the segmentation because not talking attitudinal segmentation, because I know that not many people are doing it. But it's also making the wrong choices that are not in line with what we are trying to achieve. And again, oftentimes is actually, how brave are we? We need to go for those people that are, that yes, not just a low-hanging fruit, but the ones that we can really work out, that matches what we have to offer, and really understand what they have and be brave and go for solving that problem. You always have time to expand into something else if you really, really nail that opportunity. But your chances are better to nail the opportunity if you go for fewer opportunities than you try to do it all at the same time. That's what I would say.
Thank you. We have one question from Janine Hamilton. She's an attendee. She's brave. She posted her question. She's saying, just to be clear, just say Dr. Rossi is a busy GP with an elderly practice. He is not prescribing my anti-hypertensive or my cholesterol lowering agent. How do I apply bridge? Oh.
Yeah, so
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think it's really an insight question. So you have a doctor with an elderly practice, plenty of potential, because elderly patients have high blood pressure and they tend to have high cholesterol as well. But they're not using my agent. So, I mean,
Yes.
Again, this is an account specific question, right? So what do we know? What information do we have about the account? What is he using a competitor? And if so, which one? And what can we say about our agent relative to that agent? I think that's probably the place to start. So it's really at an account level, but from bridge perspective, which is more at a marketing down level, if let's say this is a common problem, we would probably start with insight, about deep customer insight. So what is it that drives this particular stakeholder? Why are they doing what they're doing? So is it a question of, actually, I've always used this and I like to stick with what I know? In marketing terms, perhaps this person is what we might refer to as a late majority. So they're difficult to move. If they're a late majority, and they're going to be very difficult to move. Late majority and laggards are very difficult to move. If they're an early majority, then there might be a different reason, right? So maybe it's a share of voice question. It could be any reason. But the first thing is diagnosis. Why is it they're doing what they're doing? What is our understanding of that situation? And then we make a decision whether to intervene or not to intervene. Sometimes the best thing to do is to walk away if it's going to be very, very difficult to move that person. But if they're sitting in early majority and there's another reason and it's possible to move them, then that's an area we can make an intervention and do something. So start with insight, understand why, and then decide how much it's going to cost you in terms of intervention, in terms of effort and resource to move that customer, and then make a decision on when you're going to do it.
Yeah. And I would just add, as part of breach again, let's say that you decided to go for him because you actually have got something to offer that would move him from A to B. Let's say that you have understood now that in the hypothetical scenario that we're talking about here, that he has some misunderstanding of, let's say, your class of drugs, as well as he doesn't even know about you. You need to sequence your messaging and your activities in order to take him from A to B in the right way. Because if he hasn't even bought into it, and we're going into very basic, very functional, sort of rational, just to put the example out there. If he hasn't yet bought into the class, you need to get him first to buy into the class. Then you need to, convince him that your drug within that class is the most relevant one. But it could be anything that you found out. My main point is use that insight, use that understanding of where they are to inform the messages, activities. Juliana, you talk about channels. Well, think about your customer and how are you going to engage them? What will wow them and make their life easier? And do those things, not the things that just, are kind of in our top list of the things that we always do. And then, of course, measure well, how is it that you're going to be checking that your doctor is actually adopting your drug.
Sorry. I have another question here. It says, could you delve deeper into how emotional drivers can be effectively identified and utilized in pharma marketing to better connect with the target audience?
Yes. So first thing to say, as much as we like to think that in pharma, as included, by the way, we're surrounded by scientists. I am not one of them, but we are surrounded by scientists, beautiful, smart people. Yeah. Our doctors are all scientists. We're not rational, nor are they. So our decision making is not on the basis of maths and like 2 + 2 has to be 4, hence I need to do that. No, it's not like that. So the first thing is to be curious about understanding. And Laura asked the question, posed the idea, of, we sometimes make assumptions. We may think that all they need is education, or let's be very curious. And the first thing is to ask very open and fundamental questions. Sometimes it is not about why you don't prescribe a product. It's actually, what are you trying to achieve? What's challenging for you? What is keeping you awake at night? What are the things that you're struggling with? When you have a patient in front of you, what are you trying to achieve? What are the things that you value the most? What are the things that even make you happier, satisfied, proud? You name it. I mean, explore. What is it that this guy is looking for? And then the second thing is to say, it's not that we're going to now become Coca-Cola, by the way. We're not saying that. And we're going to talk about happiness and whatever. And we're going to forget about claims and substantiation or whatever. We're not suggesting that either, right? But I've got this little mental model that I apply myself when I think about messaging, right? Your message should have 3 core elements. One of them being your rational claims and your things. But the first thing is the why should I even listen to you? If you do not start by connecting with the customer at the level that they have an issue, they have a challenge, they have a problem, they won't even listen to what you're saying. So you need to try and find a common space where you acknowledge that you're talking about this space that for them is relevant. Could be that, I don't know, a doctor is frustrated because their patients actually don't do what they say and he loses hope or whatever that is. So you need to start by acknowledging the pain they're going through, because that's a hook to like, okay, now I'm listening. You understand me. You get me. The second one is when then you say, right, what do I offer you? And we oftentimes start with the clinical data, and our clinical data is important. To me, it's a reason to believe that what you're offering me makes sense, that you could deliver that. But you need to also offer a benefit that is not just the clinical benefit of your drug. So what's in it for me if I am the customer? If I have this challenge and this pain point and whatever, how are we going to convey to our customers that we're going to help them solve that? That they are going to get, because they're going to do this, you're going to get. And then, of course, this is what you can do, and this is the data, and this is what a product does. And we're not saying that we're not going to communicate that. Of course, we have to, because yes, we're speaking to scientists that also need the rational part of the brain to work. But let's not assume that they only think rationally, because it is not the case. I mean, as much as we would like it to be, as much as I would like to be rational all the time, I know I'm not. I make stupid decisions sometimes, you know. I just make decisions on follow your heart kind of thing. But yeah, without going romantic on it, I think by balancing those three elements, we can use the emotional drivers to be successful and to position, land our product and our benefit.
Probably like a practical way to maybe achieve that with the team is to use something like the value proposition framework is a great one. Maybe getting your sales team together. In that framework, it provides structure for everything that Claudia has just spoken about. So it talks about, for your customer, what's a pain giver or a gain giver. So what does a really great day look like? Not just from treating the disease, but in total, what are the gain givers, and what are the pains that they have in their day? What really causes them pain? And then, using the sales team, marketing team, medical team coming together and as a cross-functional team, really exercising this and workshopping this and thinking trying to gather what you think might be the pain givers and the relievers. And then think about, well, the next step then is to think about how your treatment can be a pain reliever or a gain giver, right? But from an insight perspective, you may have a draft of what you think makes a great day or what makes an awful day. And then you could go out and talk to customers, based on all the questions. Then you'll, automatically all the questions like Claudia mentioned there will come to mind, because you're all aligned around the same exercise, which is understanding what makes a great day and what makes a bad day for your customers, So it's just one way to actually make it happen, if you like. And then once you've gathered all that insight, you have better insight. You can consolidate that insight, a more validated set of insights, which then you can then look at your brand and say, okay, why would this customer use our brand? What can it do for this customer?
Yeah, I like the idea of the bad day, good day. It reminds me of a commercial, sorry, that I saw. I think it was regarding Alzheimer's. It was a while ago, but it show you that this person was talking to someone and he didn't know who he was talking to and was asking questions. It was a woman about the baby and she was pregnant and how long she was and how far. And then it showcased later on that that woman was his daughter. So the resonation of, or how you can relate to that person when she is standing, or the person from the family is standing with someone with Alzheimer's that they do not really recall, and how it generates an emotional or something more deep into the message. I think that's something that really gets, I don't know if people to buy things, but at least to relate with that family, with that person, with that patient. And I really like that type of the storytelling, building the emotional part that you said, Claudia. You want to be very rational. I think that rational, it's very good, but the emotional part is what makes us very human and what differentiate us and push us to look for something better, to solve an issue that maybe we have in our families. I know this family. It was a friend of my brother's. Their son was a baby, had cancer, and they are really building now awareness about the importance of early diagnosis and different medication that he was into, but the importance of being there as a family with friends and all that into helping the parents go through that disease. It was they made they have a charity or something like that, and the message that you get from that is very, very deep. The getting into the relatable part of the story. We have another question
Sorry,
from
Juliana,
Janine.
I think just one thing on that
Yes.
to mention is, I think we really have a duty to help doctors triangulate between the medicine, the patient, the caregiver, the family member, because, these are very emotive subjects, but doctors are dealing with them day in, day out. That's the reality of their job. And so, there's also a human need for the doctor there too, which is to be able to get through the day and, to get through the day and fulfill their role and be a good doctor and do the best they can for patients, whatever it is that's important to them. I'm using for instance here, but whatever's important to them. Our role in pharma, I think, is really to help the doctor triangulate and to support them in their decision as best we can. And we have a very important role there, because they're dealing with these patients every day. They don't know what's walking through the door. So I think it's very important to be empathetic of that and to understand also that doctors want a little bit of themselves when they go home, to be with their family, be with their friends. So I think that's just an important aspect to what we do.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that part, it makes us, we sometimes forget that we are, and this is something that you, Claudia, said in our first webinars. We are for the patients, and we are, our job is so fundamental because we are the road, let's say, or the bridge to the patients and between the doctors. And as Laura said, they have so many challenges, and not only for the doctors or the patients, but also for the family, that it's there with them every step of the way. So yes, I really think
just a final comment, because I realized while you guys were talking that the question was about not just using but identifying. So I want to say quick words. We are very good at thinking insights is only market research, primary market research, focus groups. What if I don't have the money? And I think insights is something that should be embedded in our culture, and everyone should be curious to just find out. And there's so many ways that we can find out. There is today with social media, whatever, we can, listen to doctors, we can go out in the field force to be more curious, more insightful. But the main thing to say is, if we as an organization need to get better at sharing these things internally, and never why is it that doctors are behaving the way they are. It's not just about commissioning one market research once a year. It's use whatever tools we have at hand, work as a team, cross-functional team, organization-wide team, and be always asking more questions. It's an attitude and a skill more than something that is triggered by resources.
Thank you.
It. Sorry.
That's one of the tips, was ask questions. Go back to be 5-year-old. That stuck with me. Ask a lot of questions. We have one more question. Talking about question from Janine. I think it's going back to her first one. It says, good advice. So Bridge is a CRM system that shows who to target rather than account specific.
No, let's just clarify that, Janine. Sorry if we were not clear, but Bridges is basically a best practice framework on marketing, and few things that need to be right in order for the plan to be excellent. When it comes to targeting, regardless, and by the way, we don't specify in Bridge which system you need to use to either segment or choose your targets or document that. It's more the thinking behind it. How do you go about segmenting, and how do you go about targeting? Depending on the market you're in, your segmentation and your targeting may happen just at individual level, depending on the market you're in, if it's more sophisticated and you work in either sophisticated markets from a healthcare point of view or from a company point of view, you have a good account management system, you might need to segment and target at both levels, because you might have your segmentation at an account level. Accounts are more important and whatever, and you understand the issues, simplify them or make them, archetype them or whatever. Surely within the account as well, you will have who are the key stakeholders within that account that you also need to understand, group, segment potentially, but at least target. By target, obviously, I mean choosing who are the most important people that you need to engage with and not. But the bridge framework is about the thinking behind it and how to go about that and what good looks like and what is excellent and what is not. I hope that made it clear. But please shout if we didn't, or connect with us. Happy to have an offline chat if that helps.
Thanks. I have one more question that it's again, I don't know why I'm not getting them in the chat here, but anyways, let me post it. It says, one second. I don't know why. Okay. Can you give an example of campaign that effectively used storytelling to enhance engagement and message retention?
Any example or
And it says any example.
Well, we live through like great examples around us. And I would say, think about the brands that really engage you and how do they tell the same story. And one of the elements of the storytelling is how consistent are those stories over time, that you clearly have an idea of what the brand stands for, right? And how they use all the different channels, from the packaging all the way to what they say in media or social media or whatever, right? For example, I was in the supermarket the other day, and I think I sent Laura pictures to say how clever is this. We all know Cadbury, right? And Cadbury has always stand for sharing the love of the chocolate, and it's for sharing or whatever not. And they have created this new packaging that basically squares the chocolate in different parts, and then you have, I don't know, whoever cooks, whoever cleans the dishes, and the little bit is for whoever complements the food or whatever that is, right? And those things, that the main thing about this storytelling is the story comes from the insights, and the story basically is, how do I help you achieve what you're trying to achieve? Whichever brand, whichever industry, whichever whatever, the story of every good brand that we like or we love. I know that some people say, well, we don't love brands. It's not true. Okay, whatever. surely some of us have the brands that we love because we're irrational completely when we purchase them. I mean, take Apple. Why do we pay triple, 4 times, 5 times for a phone that does the same thing of the other phone? Because we love it. Because Apple is great at the storytelling of I'm clever, and the clever story of, do you want to feel clever? Here's my product. Starts from the moment you go on the website, order your thing, the box gets to you, and the box is amazing. And then you install, you open, you turn on the phone, and it's all there. It's all working. It talks to you. Hello. Let's set it up, and everything is interconnected. And then you do feel the whole messaging of clever transpires across everything, because not everything is just written words, right? It's the tone, it's the imagery, it's how you do things. And unfortunately in pharma, we're not great at doing that. We are not, because we like to use channels as amplifiers of the voice. Unfortunately, we are way too obsessed sometimes with share of voice. So it's how we get to more people and more and more and more. And sometimes we forget that it's about amplifying the voice, and not amplifying it as volume, but amplifying necessarily what we normally do. Although there are some good examples, and Pharma is getting good at, for example, managing meetings. And we know, we have mastered the art of like, how do I get you engaged into my meeting? And I send you few reminders or whatever. But it's beautiful when you actually think about, are you thinking about how to create the excitement, or are we just thinking about, oh, are they going to come here? How many open rates I'm going to have? And then what's conversion rate and whatever? No, that's kind of the mindset that we need to have to really tell a story, as opposed to just shout and see how much we can hold the shouting very loud so that lots of people hear us from far away.
Yeah, I think another great example of that one is like the Dove Real Beauty campaign, right? Because that's one everyone
Yes.
knows, and that's just soap, right? It's soap with some moisturizer in it. But what what Dove did was they stopped and took a moment. And yes, at the time there was a trend around this back against the super skinny supermodels and all the rest, but they took an environmental trend,
Yeah.
and it was like a wave, right? It was a rising wave, and they've ridden that wave for, I don't know, 20, 30 years, and they've had extraordinary success from it. And the Real Beauty campaigns are still ongoing, and there's so much storytelling there, and it's so inspiring and moving. So I suppose the message is, this was just soap. So irrespective of what your brand is or it does, just stop and think for a moment. Why does it matter? What does it mean? What is the human relevance of it? And how can you link that? And how can you build that into the story that you're going to then, build for your brand and implement into your channels, etc.
Well, I have one more brand, Nike. I don't know if you guys saw the commercial about the Women's International Day. It was like with Serena Williams narrating behind, and she said like, just do it. Like you have, it used girls, and no, I think it was from all ages, but it was like, just do it. Like I came back after having a baby, won a Grand Slam, and a lot of things. So just do it. I love that energy, that emotion that it brings to you when you're watching that. And again, with Dub, the real stories, real women, I think that really made an impact, made a change. You don't need to be perfect. The idea of not looking or not seeking for perfection anymore. I think that's very, very something very relatable that everyone can encounter and find themselves in those stories. Guys, we're 3 minutes away, so I don't know if you want to give like a short. I think it will be very good if you can give a short like advice or a tip or whatever under this 3 minutes that we have left. And
yeah, I think it would be.
Yeah, I just wanna tell. Go on.
No, go ahead.
Laura.
Don't bite.
Go on.
I was going to say to make sure you link in with us on LinkedIn, because we post regularly and we like to put up content there for tips and reminders, and yeah, hopefully you'll find a lot of value there. So do link in with BellySlide on LinkedIn, and yeah, I think everything we have is there so you can peruse what's useful and interesting to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that my one piece of advice is be very mindful of where you are in your journey. Be humble enough to recognize if you have the gaps, and start little by little. The way to eat an elephant is piece by piece, and you make improvements. Think about through the entire, let's say, spectrum, because you can't do one without the other. If you have to choose one, I would choose try and understand your customer better. That will give you so much ammunition to improve everything else. But don't give up. And if you feel that this is important, and this is our ask of you, because we're trying to create a bit of an industry movement, shout, say it out loud in your organization. We do need to go back to focusing amazing omnichannel and AI and all the rest of it. Those are tools that can allow us to do this. AI, by the way, is an important tool that we can all use, but to do the other bits better, not just to do omnichannel better, because there is no awful bad strategy founded in a lack of understanding of customers that will ever be rescued with an omnichannel campaign. It's not going to work. It's just going to be an omnichannel piece of rubbish. I'm sorry to say, but it is the case. If our messages are not relevant, our customers are not going to engage. It doesn't matter whether we send them at the right time in the day in the channel they love. They will still see our relevance and go like, what was this for? You're just wasting my time. That is a reality. So we need to, and again, but if we get it right, if we understand what these people care about, what they, and we manage to connect through our product with that, is a happy medium, happy sweet spot, then you will see the results, even if you only implement via, I don't know, 2, 3 channels, simple journey. Sometimes we try to overcomplicate. The message, I think, is still king. So don't give up. Try, shout, and really do understand your customers the best that you can, because that I think is a fuel to everything else. Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And for everyone, follow Laura's advice and follow BellySlide on LinkedIn. Follow Laura, follow Claudia. They have a lot of information about this, so you will not miss anything if you do that. That's my suggestion for the day. And with that, I thank you, Claudia and Laura, for being here. Thank you so much. It was great. And for our attendees, thank you for tuning in. And we will see each other on a next episode.
Awesome.
So bye, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.